Last summer, I went to Matsuricon, an anime convention in Columbus, Ohio. While there, I attended a panel by Keith Silverstein called The Art of Being Evil. He talked about different motivations that different villains have. Now, Keith Silverstein has had a lot of acting gigs in his career, including Coyote Stark from Bleach, Mecha Maru Ultimate from Jujutsu Kaisen, I hope I pronounced that name correctly, Kimi Maru from Naruto Shippuden, and most notable to me, Hisoka from Hunter x Hunter. Now, I don't necessarily remember anything from this panel. I should have made this video in August when I went to the convention, but I didn't think about it until now, 4 months later. But it is probably better that I can't recall everything from the panel. I don't want to regurgitate everything he said. I would rather talk about different tropes you can use for villains. Now, the most stereotypical trope for a villain is the character that is just evil. This can be boring if not done correctly. Even the most evil villains in media have some sort of motivation behind their acts. The only example I can think of for this does have a purpose. You could have a villain that is trying to cause chaos or in the realm the characters are in, but I feel like there is an underlying reason for that. Even a god of chaos wants to create chaos because that is what they were born to do. So I would recommend just not having your villain's motivation just be that they're evil. This leads into the next motivation, an understood purpose. It might be a robot that was programmed for destruction and has to carry it out. Something like the Terminator. The villain might think their destiny is to destroy a kingdom. It might be that, like the god of chaos, the villain was born to complete a singular task. A good example of this would be Surtur, that was born to cause Ragnarok, according to the Marvel comics. I don't think this is exactly the case in Norse mythology, though. You could go biblical with this, and the campaign villains could be the four horsemen of the apocalypse that were only created to bring Judgment Day. A great example of this is the villain from Arcane Season 2. This is a spoiler for anyone who hasn't watched the show, so if you plan to, I'll skip ahead. I'll give you a second. In the season, we see Victor begin healing others and becoming what I would refer to as the Messiah. This went too far when he decided that people needed to reach the full evolution in order to prevent death. This led to him forcefully capturing a kingdom full of people to help them. In his head, he was the good guy in this story, but he was taking free will away from others. My favorite villain trope is someone trying to gain power. There's a few ways you could go about this. They could be trying to usurp a king and crown themselves ruler. In the past, I have had someone trying to build power to become a god themselves. In my world, defeating a god allows you the opportunity to take their spot. A good example of this in D&D media is the Crown of Candy by Dimension 20. This is another spoiler, so once again, you can skip if you need to, but Crown of Candy might be one of my favorite campaigns. The villains of the campaign are trying to overthrow Candia and bring the land of Calorum to war. One of the villains, Lord Calroy Crueler, even goes as far as stabbing the king and throwing him from a cliff. I love this campaign. If you haven't watched it, I would highly recommend it. This can be great for political intrigue campaigns, like the Crown of Candy. The party could be trying to stop someone who has a claim to the throne through nefarious acts. Or they could try to stop an assassination attempt. Maybe the kingdom knows that someone is going to try to assassinate the king, and the players could try to stop that from happening. It would also be a great way to frame a campaign where the characters have to hunt down artifacts. It could be the only way to stop a creature from reaching godhood is to collect certain weapons or find ways to gain more power yourself. Another great option is the tragic villain, Something happened to the villain to make them the way they are. A great example talked about on a channel I love called Hello Future Me is Carrie. He gives more great examples, but Carrie stuck out to me. Many people see the bullies in the book as the villains, but in reality, it would be Carrie. She did murder a whole lot of people. But it was easier to sympathize with her than most villains. You spend the entire book seeing this girl get bullied, and then the end of the book, which is prefaced in the beginning of the book, has her murdering a bunch of high schoolers. If you can pull it off, it is great to have a villain that the party can sympathize with, but they still need to stop them. Like, they understand the motivations, but they also understand that not stopping the act that they are trying to accomplish would be negative for everybody else. Magneto is another great example of this. He wants humans to be accepted, but knows that humanity will never fully accept them. Every time he starts to give humanity a chance, they prove him right. Mutants are murdered. They're imprisoned and blamed for tragedies. When X-Men 97 came out, a lot of people commented that Magneto was right. In a way, I can understand that. Frankenstein's monster works for this too. He was created against his will as a grotesque creature. He longs to feel love and to be accepted by others. His creator views him as a science project. Humanity views him as a monster. As he is rejected and attacked over and over again, he eventually leans into that assumption and becomes the monster that people have assumed him to be. The fallen hero is a common villain trope used in fiction. These villains used to be legendary heroes or beloved members of society. Something happened to change their perspective. This is similar to the tragic villain, but this guy used to be esteemed. He was a hero, he was a higher member of society. The greatest example of this is Lucifer, who was referred to as the most beautiful angel that fell from the heavens after disobeying God. You could do something similar to this with using an angel or a celestial that used to be highly worshipped and changing them to the dark side. Harvey Dent works here as well. He worked to imprison criminals and became disillusioned with the justice system. After that disillusionment, his face got burned and everything, you know the story, but he became a villain that still liked to give people a chance, but became the thing that he was fighting against. My favorite example of this trope is Anakin Skywalker. Anakin was saved from slavery by the Jedi Order. He grew up thinking they were the saviors of the galaxy. The flaws in the Jedi Order started to chip away at this belief over time. He was told that love was not allowed, but he fell in love with Padme. The Jedi said that anger would lead to evil, but how else are you supposed to feel when the Tusken Raiders kill your mother? He felt that that anger was justified by his love for his mother. Both things that the Jedi Order said weren't allowed. The Jedi seem hypocritical. They are knights of peace that are fighting a war across the galaxy. They kill their enemies, and although it isn't talked about, Jedi mind tricks just kind of feel evil. You're making somebody do something against their will. When he is approached by the Emperor, he is vulnerable. He has been having visions of his secret wife dying. He is told that he can save her if he leans into the powers of the dark side. He knows the Jedi would not accept his marriage or be able to help his wife, so he makes a tough decision. A tough decision that leads to the order that he has sworn himself to, mostly dying off. Some villains want to bring about a greater evil. I think the most common form of this might be a cult trying to summon a demon. Maybe the villains are trying to free someone from a prison. It could be that the goal is to find a good host for an entity to inhabit. A good example of this would be the movie Immortals that was released in 2011. In the movie, the villain is trying to retrieve a bow to free the Titans that were trapped under Mount Tartarus. If the bow is retrieved by the king, he can destroy Mount Tartarus and free the Titans from their prison, leading to a war against the Greek gods. Another great example is Ghostbusters. In the original movie, an evil spirit named Zool is trying to summon Gozer, a god of destruction. The team tries to stop Zool from summoning Gozer and stop Gozer from ending the world. This is an incredible example of this trope. Some villains might just get pleasure from hurting others. They might be sadist. This is someone that doesn't have a purpose other than their own enjoyment. A good example of this is actually a character voiced by Keith Silverstein, Ahsoka. He gets joy out of fighting difficult opponents. Fighting someone strong brings him pleasure, and it can be a bit too sexual. Since the main protagonists are young, this can come off as a bit creepy. Very creepy, actually. There are other characters in the show that he fights and gets pleasure from that aren't children, but I feel like that doesn't get talked about as much as the kids that he is fighting throughout the show. I would say that the Joker from DC is also a good example of this. For the most part, he just enjoys being evil. He finds death and destruction funny. This makes him more dangerous since he is less predictable than a lot of Batman's rogues gallery. But I do think Joker is a great example of a villain that just enjoys hurting people. Maybe the most common trope for a villain is someone seeking revenge. This could be someone that was wronged by a ruling class or society as a whole. The village might have been destroyed. Maybe a loved one was neglected by society and it led to their eventual demise. In The Incredibles, Syndrome wants to destroy Mr. Incredible for not wanting to be his partner. He wants revenge for being told that he is not worthy of being Mr. Incredible's sidekick. Talia al Ghul is motivated by revenge in The Dark Knight Rises. She wants to avenge the death of her father in Batman Begins. She manipulates Batman so that Bane can continue working on the revenge plot without all of Batman's focus being on him. I should say she manipulates Bruce Wayne so that Bane can carry out their plan. The last villain motivation I wanted to talk about is Nature's Wrath. Your BBEG could be an angry druid that is trying to spread plant life across the land. Someone like Poison Ivy from DC Comics. Maybe they think that society, cities, and towns have taken too much away from nature. It could be a mutated plant like Little Shop of Horrors. Maybe the main villain is an angry nature spirit or a corrupt dryad. You could even use Mother Nature or a nature god from your setting if you wanted to go down that route. You could have a lot of natural disasters in your setting that your characters need to find the source of. You could frame this like the movie The Day After Tomorrow. The characters need to figure out why these natural disasters are happening. A good example of this trope is Moana. The main antagonist is an angry nature spirit that Moana has to confront. A different way you could take this is by having animals rebel. The Birds by Alfred Hitchcock does this really well. Birds start attacking people one day. In D&D, you could have someone behind the scenes controlling these animals like a druid or a minor god. Now, if you have any other villain motivations you think I'm missing here, please let me know in the comments. I think this is a pretty decent list, but let me know if I am forgetting anything. If you guys have used any of these motivations in your campaigns, also let me know in the comments. I love hearing about how people have framed the big bad evil guys, BBEG or whatever you want to call it. I normally just call them the main villain of the campaign. I think sometimes D&D leans too heavily into abbreviations. But if you guys want to tell me how you have framed your villain, I would love to hear about it. Other than that, I hope everybody is having an amazing day. And until next time, peace.